Hello students, good morning. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. I shall be taking today lecture on micropropagation part 2. So in this lecture, I shall be covering the other part of micropropagation, step 2, 3 and 4. I shall be touching upon basics of that. And then I have a special lecture for you on micropropagation, on somatic embryogenesis, rooting, and maybe on acclimatization of plants separately. Hello. Ridvi, please mute yourself. Mute. So stage 2, micropropagation, that is multiplication of shoots or embryos. This stage is very, very important because you can recycle this stage in order to produce the desired number of shoots which are required to get the number of plants we are aiming to propagate, or the embryos which will be enough to get the desired number of plants. So this stage makes micropropagation or qualify micropropagation to be an industry where we can plan the production and deliver the product on a given frame of timeline. So that makes micropropagation an efficient system also. The shoots embryos can be multiplied by repeated subculture to get the desired number of propagules. The multiplication cycles can be repeated. That's important by subculturing the shoots on the same medium back or embryos on the same medium or proliferation medium. This is important. Nodal cutting of microshoots or small shoot clumps can be subculture. So I would like to draw your attention here to this picture. हेलो, हाँ आस्था बोलो. मैंने तो इसलिए बोला था कि आई जस्ट वांटेड टू टॉक टू यू टू स्टार्ट द लेक्चर. So we can have shoots where we can take the nodal cuttings or the shoot clumps. This you can see, this is a big clump of shoots of eucalyptus. This is a big clump of eucalyptus shoots. ये क्या हो रहा है? Okay. So this is a big clump of eucalyptus shoots. We can just divide this clump and subculture this. And this clump may contain shoots which may be more than 3-4 thousands in one clump. So a large number of shoots. But this luxury does not exist in all type of plants. If you look at the cultures of potato, this will look like different. I will show you some other cultures just in the maybe next slides. Please have a look at that also. So these nodal cutting or shoot clumps can be subculture. The nodal cutting removes the inhibitory effect of shoot effects. There is a very prominent effect in plant propagation. Some of you might have noticed it. If we just plant a seed, the shoot comes out of that. I'm just talking a normal field growth, and that shoot continue to grow. That doesn't allow the other shoots to grow. That's called, we call an apical shoot, continue to grow. If we clip means cut the apical portion of the shoot, then after some time you will see all the lateral buds, side shoots, they start growing. So why is this happening? It's a very important question to understand the shoot multiplication or shoot proliferation in plants. Because from the roots, as long as the main shoot is growing, it continues to draw all the nutrient and plant growth regulators from the roots and utilize itself. But if we cut that, there is no organ to withdraw, and it gets distributed to all the shoots, and all the shoots then start growing. This phenomena is called apical dominance. So basically the shoot multiplication is achieved by removing or inhibiting the apical dominance. So that is important, that the apical dominance can be removed by cutting, making the nodal cuttings, or by adding the higher concentration of cytokinins also, because it is the cytokinins that determine whether the shoot will grow or not. So long as all cytokinins are going to the main shoot, it does not allow the auxiliary shoots to grow. So if we add lot of cytokinin into the medium, there is enough cytokinin to be supplied to each growing bud, and then we can find the structure like this happen, this type, where every shoot bud which is there tends to grow. And this is the removal of apical dominance using certain chemicals such as growth regulators, and the main among that is cytokinin. Otherwise, also for the shoot growth and shoot differentiation, it is the cytokinin which is required. I have told you in the lecture on my morphogenesis why cytokinins are important. Cytokinins are important because they are required to induce the cell division, to break the dormancy, and to achieve the shoot multiplication. And this all things are interlinked. Cytokinins are produced in the growing root tips, and auxins are produced in the growing shoot tip. So long as auxins are actively transported to the growing root tip, the root tip continue to supply all cytokinin to the place from where the auxins are coming. That is the basic fundamental of apical dominance. Now, if there is lot of cytokinin in the medium, tissue senses that roots are there, and in order to complete the plant, tissue has to produce the shoots. That is why the cytokinins are known to induce shoot organogenesis, growth, and other type of factors or the responses. Whereas if there is lot of auxins in the medium, tissue senses there are lot of shoots, we need to prepare the roots. That is why auxins are used for the process of root induction. Okay, so the desired concentration of cytokinin is added to the medium to increase the shoot multiplication, may also induce bud growth. Okay, GA may also be added to promote the elongation. Now you see these all shoots what are here, they are very small shoots. These shoots cannot be used further in the further stages. So in the condition like this, we may have an other step or stage. We may call, in that case, this is as 2A and that is as 2B, where we need to elongate these shoots so that these can be rooted. We can elongate these shoots. I will show you elongated also. Okay, this is a shoot multiplication of T. This is T shoots. This is the shoot multiplication of one of the very important variety of rose, that is essential oil bearing rose. And this is the shoot multiplication in bamboo. This is bamboo. It's a gigantic bamboo, very large bamboo, big columns in the field. Elite quality bamboo which was selected from there. I told you the multiplication can also be achieved through the somatic embryogenesis. So these are the embryos of rose derived from the embryos in only. This is the embryos of T, again derived from the embryos, and these are the embryos of bamboo, which is not derived from the embryos. These are derived from the basic cultures, callus cultures, indirect. This is indirect, this is direct. So that is how we can multiply. So in this case of shoot multiplication, we can subculture these. So cut them into nodes and subculture. We can just divide these clumps and subcultures. We can cut these into nodes and subculture, and we can achieve this kind of response time after again in order to get the desired number of shoots, which can be then used for the other purposes. Again, the somatic embryos can also be multiplied. Many times what happens in case of somatic embryos, we culture these embryos onto the medium. that results in the somatic embryogenesis, then the surface of these embryos, they contain many pre-embryogenic determined cell which can develop into the medium. This is called recurrent embryogenesis or secondary embryogenesis. This happens in all type of cultures and it's very prominent in bamboo also. Secondary embryogenesis. So that is about the embryogenesis and embryo formation. Now I come back to the next stage, rooting. Rooting is a very important stage in case of micropropagation because rooted plants can be only be put into the field. That is the only complete plant. Otherwise, these are microshoots. These are not the root, these are microshoots. And the somatic embryos needs to be germinated. So both are very important. This step is as important as anything else. And I just give you one calculation here where that will highlight the importance of this step of rooting. Rooting. So what is the importance of rooting? I will just explain it to you. Suppose we want to produce one lakh plants. One lakh plants we want to produce. So in order to produce 1 lakh plant, I told you we can just repeat the shoot multiplication. Say it's through shoot multiplication. We need to repeat the shoot multiplication cycle to get the desired number of shoots. Okay. So now if all the shoots root and all the plants they survive in the field, we require number of shoots which is equal to 1 lakh microshoots which are required. Now suppose the success of rooting is 50%, let's say. Generally the rooting can vary from 10% to 100% anywhere. So let's take 50%. Okay. In that case, we require, in order to get the 1 lakh shoot, we required say X number of plant. Let us say X number of plant to get the wrong. So we require the say X number of plants. Where is a pen? So we require X number of microshoots. If rooting is 50%, यहाँ पे you can say 100% rooting, 100% root. If the rooting is 50%, to get the 1 lakh plants, you require X number of microshoots, which is obviously we know it's 2 lakh. But the question is, if the survival in the field is again 80%, say survival in the field. So for 1 lakh plant, 1 lakh plants, rooting 50% and survival 80%. Then we require how many shoots? That's a big question. Now the question is, so 50% rooting. Now let us move it reverse. In order to get 1 lakh plants, we require how many? 1,25,000 rooted plants. So for hardening में, acclimatization में, for 1 lakh plant, and we require 1,25,000 rooted plant. Now to get 1,25,000 rooted plant with 50% success for what we want. So for 1,25,000 plants with 50% rooting, you require 2,50,000 microshoots. Now, just see the difference. If you have the 100% rooting and 100% acclimatization, you can work with just 1 lakh plants. But if you have 50% rooting and 80% survival, you require 2,50,000 plants. If you're, this is also 50%, this will go to the 4 lakh. Now that is the importance of rooting of microshoots. That is the importance of efficient rooting of microshoot. And this step is a big problem. These both the steps are a big problem in the industry of micro propagation industry. Both these steps as not that much easy steps for straightforward step in the micro propagation industry. Now, if we have to good rooting, we need to standardize the proper protocol. That is why I have planned a separate lecture, how to induce rooting in microshoots, how to get efficient rooting in microshoots. You can see here, these are the rooted microshoots of Bacopa. So the rooting can be by two ways. One is in vitro rooting. We can root these shoots in the culture. There are n number of factors that affect the process of rooting. We will discuss all these in that lecture. So by culturing shoots on medium lacking cytokinin and supplemented with auxin, this is just a take-home message. That means cytokinin is inhibitory for rooting and auxin is required for rooting, which I just discussed with you a few minutes back also. So here we root the shoots in the bottles and then we transfer them in the field. Now second is ex vitro rooting. What is ex vitro rooting? We prepare good quality shoots and transfer these shoots to the pots, soil pots directly without rooting. And root and acclimatization is carried out simultaneously. This is called ex vitro rooting. Both have been attempted and both has been successful in varying degree in different plants. Not that success is same in all the plants and all the cases. So produced plants are then progressively acclimatized in the soil. We maintain the humidity and slowly exposed to sunlight to shift from, so that's a basic fundamental of acclimatization, the shift the plant from heterotrophic to autotrophic mode of nutrition. That's important. The medium should be removed before transfer to the soil to avoid the contamination. If we transfer the soil to the soil plants with medium, because medium contain lot of sugars and other vitamins, so the moment we transfer the plant to the field, the microbes start growing around the medium and will also attack the plant. So medium is to be completely removed, washed, and plants needs to be completely cleaned before transferring to the field. So these are the steps in acclimatization. You can see these are the acclimatized plants of potato, and these are the acclimatized plants of apple. And these potato plants are then transferred, can be transferred in the field, and you see this lavishly growing potato plant after about 1 month of transfer from this stage to this stage. So that is the scale. Plants are taken out from the medium. These are the steps. First, we take out the plant from the medium after rooting. Wash them with warm water to remove agar and medium. Warm water means it should be 30-35 degrees Celsius, not more than that. So gentle washing, and then plants are treated with antifungal agents such as carbendazim is a very good agent. Beside antifungal, it has a growth promotory activities also. It also strengthens the subsequent rooting during acclimatization process. So this is one of the very important chemical in the hands of the plant tissue culturist. You put the plants there. After treatment, after taking out washing, we treat it with antifungal agents. The plants are maintained under high humidity at controlled temperature, and these plants in the for the acclimatization are to be maintained under high humidity. So what it is doing, because I told you in my previous lecture, the plants, even they contain root and shoot, leaves are not capable of photosynthesizing, and photosynthetic apparatus is not properly organized. Leaves are not able to regulate the water balance, as stomata are non-functional, always open, and roots are not able to absorb water because these roots are not accustomed to absorb water. And further, plant has no mechanism to fight the microorganisms. They are growing under aseptic condition. So we need to train these plants for all these processes, and this training of the plants for all these processes is called the process of acclimatization. That means we make the plant roots to grow, absorb water and minerals, leaves to regulate the water balance, and also to synthesize the photosynthesize, and also leaves and other tissue to develop the mechanism to fight the microorganisms. Generally, the leaves and roots, what are there in the culture bottle, these does not develop any of this mechanism. So once we put the plant in the field, we maintain high humidity so that it does not need to absorb water from the soil. And then these also provide little bit of sunlight that starts making plant synthesize its own food. Now as these plants are growing, within few days, 1 or 2, 3, 5 days, the plants start producing new leaves. These new leaves which are emerging are photosynthetic. Moment they start photosynthesizing with the growing leaves, These photosynthates are transported to the root zone, and these roots, old roots, they do not mostly many a time grow. Sometimes they grow and many times doesn't. New roots start emerging from their place, and these new roots are functional. And new leaves which are coming, they have regulated good stomata. These leaves also have mechanism to fight pathogens such as cuticle and other vexes, and this behave like a normal leaf root system. Once this system is established, we can slowly decrease the humidity, slowly, not suddenly, over a period of say 5 to 10 days, and the plants start growing. So depending upon the type of plant, acclimatization can be for 10 to 12 days, 15 days, as in case of potato, and it can be 1 to 2 months as in case of apple and eucalyptus. So that is the process of acclimatization. I just told you all this. So after that, the plants are maintained under high humidity and controlled temperature. Then humidity is reduced once the plants start growing over a period of time, and plants started to grow. Then these are transferred to the field. So this is the whole mechanism of in vitro micropropagation. Now micropropagation by shoot organogenesis. I told you in the slide previous lecture that the shoot organogenesis can also be used for micropropagation. The adventitious shoot formation, that is new shoot formation, is the de novo development of shoot from the cell clusters in the absence of pre-existing meristems. So in those places where no pre-existing meristems such as leaf, internode, petal, sepal, root, all these, so we can develop shoot there. This is called shoot organogenesis. In some species, this process is very, very efficient, as in case of Saint Petunias. This can be one leaf can get you 3,000 shoots, very big number. But in other also, it may be difficult in many plants to induce shoot organogenesis, but it is an efficient process. It gives a good number of shoots in case of eucalyptus also. In other species, it may be necessary to induce, and sometimes we do not get directly shoots from the tissue. We first differentiate into callus-like structures, callus, unorganized mass of cells, and then from that unorganized mass of cells we get differentiate the shoot. So in the earlier case we call it as direct differentiation, whereas in later case we call it as indirect differentiation. But to differentiate the shoots, we require higher concentration of cytokinin and lower concentration of auxins, very lower concentration of auxins. And many cases, many times, only cytokinins are good enough for the process of shoot induction or shoot development. That's what it's being shown here. Say only cytokinin, you see shoots are growing, adventitious shoots, and you see the only auxins, only roots are growing, and in the middle concentration you see callus is growing. Here root and shoot both, here only callus is growing. So this is a very, very, very nice way of explaining the effect of cytokinin. Higher cytokinin promotes shoot organogenesis, where a lower cytokinin promotes shoot growth, and higher auxin results in rooting. Auxin and middle concentration of both is a compromise that may result in the formation of callus. And in some callus concentration, you may also get embryos. These are the embryos, somatic embryos. So this is the process of morphogenesis, and that is what the I just showed you in the second slide itself, the eucalyptus shoots. So if we grow these eucalyptus shoot on the very low cytokinin medium, no auxin, then they start elongating. And as we increase the auxin, shoot elongation increases, and also they start rooting. As we increase the cytokinin, you will see the shoots become smaller and more number of shoots are produced. So this is again effect of auxin and cytokinin on shoot growth and multiplication and rooting. Shoot growth, shoot multiplication and rooting. This side lower cytokinin, lower auxin. This side auxin is increasing. This side cytokinin is increasing. You can see this particular checkerboard explaining the process in a very nice way. These are the shoots or cultures of eucalyptus, which I have shown you in some of the earlier slide. I hope it's here, which I have shown you here. The same culture. So another very important aspect is production of propagules. Propagules such as corms, tubers, bulbs in the bottle. This is also a part of micropropagation. And these propagules, once we produce these propagules, neither they require rooting nor they require acclimatization. So both the dangerous phases are over. If we produce these propagules in the bottle, then we can directly plant these propagules like their conventional part, in the field and grow the plants out of that. These are gladulous corms. So in vitro production of corms, tubers, potato tubers, bulbs of lily, rhizome of ginger can be achieved. And then if we achieve this, then we don't need to acclimatize or root the plants. So how probably we can do that? What we do, we culture the plant into the medium. Then in the medium, these plants, they start producing on the appropriate medium, they start producing these structures such as bulbs, corms, or like that. In case of gladulus, it has been seen that if we plant the shoots onto the medium containing higher concentration of sucrose and with some of the plant growth regulators such as chlorocholine chloride, malic acid hydrazide, then paclobutrazole, these are all inhibitors of GA action or GA synthesis, gibberellic acid action or synthesis. When we incorporate these compounds into the medium, that result in the formation of such structures in plant which they are known to produce. It's not that the gladulus will produce bulbs. No. Gladulus is known to produce corm in the field also. We can get the corm. Potato is known to produce tubers. We will get tubers. Lilies are known to produce bulbs. We will get bulbs. And ginger is known to produce rhizome. We will get rhizome. But these natural structures can be induced in the culture. The basic fundamental of that is we need to manipulate the medium with addition of higher amount of sugars. Why higher amount of sugars? Because in all these type of material, they are the storage propagules. They store carbohydrate for the future subsequent plant. As in case of seeds, the seeds are known to store the food. They are also a kind of vegetative seeds, vegetative propagules we call them. So that can be achieved in case of gladulus. And these corms and bulbs can then be planted in the field with a good success. About if a normal conventional partner is giving you 90% germination, they will give you 85% germination, sometime maybe also 90, or sometime also maybe more. So that is the advantage of this particular process of producing bulbs. Production of bulb in the last stage is preferred in many plants, such as gladiolus, lilies. Then another advantage of these bulbs is, if we want to transport to the distant places, we can pack them off and send them through any courier or any way to any corner of the world, no problem, which is relatively difficult in case of cultures. It's not that easy in case of cultures as in case of these particular propagules. So I conclude with this particular thing, micropropagation. And one thing I would like to suggest here is, now once we have produced the plants, we have produced the particular bulbs or anything, in that case what we need to do, is it for the granted that material is okay, we need to certify the plant tissue culture material. We need to certify the plant tissue culture material, and that certification is based on two important things. One is the plants are true to type, that means they are exactly like the mother plant, they are all clonally uniform, same type, no variant is there. And third is, there are no viral pathogens. So viral pathogen can be ruled out with many tests. It can be ELISA test. Nowadays, you might be aware of a real-time PCR test, as in case of we carrying out in case of COVID. And also the ELISA test we carried out in case of COVID, antigen detection test. So the similar type of tests can be carried out for the plant for the known viruses, because every plant is having known viruses, not many. Say in case of potato, we know only 4 or 5 viruses are there in India. So we need to test for those viruses. At random, we select some plants, we test them, and if we don't find any virus infected, we say this lot is free from viruses. There's a particular procedure for that. Or we can do it with the real-time PCR or PCR amplification. Whereas the clonal uniformity and genetic fidelity can be tested based on certain molecular marker such as RAPD, ISSR, RFLPs, AFLPs and all that. If every and each plant is having same bending pattern, we say they are clonally uniform. We say clone. So this kind of certification is the last step in micropropagation. So thank you very much. Now, if you have some questions, you can ask me. Any question? Anyone is having any question? Yes, Astha.
Yes, sir.
कोई क्वेश्चन बच्चे?
No, sir.
अनुषा?
No, sir.
अनन्या? अर्शिता?
No, sir.
So you are understanding everything? Any problem with that?
No, sir.
So you are getting everything. Can I ask question? Hello? Should I ask question, Ramandeep? What is the site of cytokine in biosynthesis, Ramandeep? Shreya, Sakshi, are you there? Hello? Okay, if no question, then thank you very much. I shall close the meeting.